And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen.
They say true friends are great riches, but the only thing I've done is bring poverty to my best friend's life. I'm not speaking literally, I'm just trying to say that I have done something that is way too disgusting, and I don't know if I'm just a traitor or a heartless human, but my best friend is at fault too because she very much lied to me. I guess what's going on is just as a result of the seeds she planted. If she had been honest with me from the start, this would not have happened. As I'm writing this, my best friend's husband is lying right next to me on the bed, and he's watching me. I told him I needed time to think after we had a very important conversation this morning. If you're wondering what he's doing in the same room with me, he's naked. We spent the night together. In fact, we have spent many nights together. Hi Reddit, my name is Camila, and I'm a 24-year-old dietitian. I'm not married, I'm single. I live in Los Angeles, California, in a rented apartment. I have a lot of friends. I'm the perfect definition of a social butterfly, and it's a title I carry so well. But amongst my many friends is my best friend, Tiana. Tiana and I met in college, and we've been inseparable ever since then. In fact, Tiana got married just 8 months ago to a real estate agent. His name is Davidson, and he's extremely rich. Back then in college, Tiana and I always spoke about our dream marriage and how we couldn't just wait to get married. I'm sure I'm not the only one that had a best friend who we could say those types of things to. Tiana and I even got an apartment together after we were done from college, but we decided to take separate apartments when we realized that it would be difficult for us to maintain our friendship when we lived together. Not all best friends live together, and I think I realized that it was what was best. When we lived together, we were constantly having arguments and disagreeing a lot, so we decided to have separate apartments in order to maintain the peace and harmony we had for each other. Tiana works at a fashion store, so we don't really get to see each other very often. That's why we decided to go on a group vacation with the rest of our friends. When Tiana got married, I was the chief bridesmaid as expected. I didn't know her husband until I saw him on the wedding day. She never seemed to talk about him until 2 months before they got married. I found that quite weird since we usually talked about everything. But I still showed up for her because she's my best friend, and I wanted to be there for her on her wedding day. Even my big brother and little sister tried to talk me out of it because they felt like she disrespected me by not telling me, but I didn't listen. I wanted to be there for her, but when I saw her husband some hours before the wedding, I immediately understood why she kept everything from me. Before I go on, and in case some people would ask me why I was so surprised and why I didn't ask to see his pictures before the wedding, let me put it out there that she never showed his face when she sent me pictures. She always showed pictures of him hiding his face while wearing a hoodie and came up, with the excuse of him not being a photogenic person. I always believed her because I've also been with guys that just don't want to take pictures because they didn't like it. But when I saw Davidson, I knew that Tiana had been lying to me. If she had called his full name, I would have known. She just called him by his middle name, which I can't mention here. While Tiana and I were in college, we usually attended nightclubs together. During one of those crazy nights out, Davidson asked for my phone number. He wasn't a student like me, and he came with his colleagues. I told him to hold on, and I ran to Tiana to ask for advice. I was used to the both of us sharing ideas and giving each other advice. When I told him he didn't seem like a student and cake with his colleagues from work, she advised me not to share my phone number with him because she felt like men like him were predators who exploited college students. I told her he looked like he was around our age and was good-looking, but she told me to forget it. I listened to her before going to get myself another drink. I never returned to his table. So I was surprised to know that Tiana was getting married to the same guy that asked for my phone number. I almost lost consciousness because everything happened too fast and I was just too confused. I couldn't believe that Tiana would do that to me. She lied to me. That was the only reasonable explanation. I didn't dare Davidson or ever see him after that day, but I recognized his face and name. That's because Tiana and I always spoke about that particular incident. Davidson didn't notice me, so I walked away and tried looking for Tiana. But it was already time for the wedding, and the priest had already walked into the church. I had to go stand beside the other bridesmaids and wait for Tiana to walk in. I had questions I was desperate for answers, but I had to follow the protocol and act calmly. I didn't want to cause a scene at my best friend's wedding, and I didn't want to get on her nerves, so I decided to wait till I heard her side of the story. Well, her side of the story didn't come till later that day. As for Davidson, he was very shocked when our eyes met and he raised his brows. I could tell that he had recognized my face. How could he not? He danced with me for a good 30 minutes before he finally asked for my phone number. We had a conversation, and I wanted to give him my phone number, but I just wanted to tell my friend first. She ended up discouraging me, and that's why the both of us ended up not ever meeting again. Until his wedding day, of course. Throughout the wedding ceremony, Davidson kept staring at me, and I could tell that Tiana became very uncomfortable. I guess she could feel my eyes at the back of her neck even when I helped her arrange her gown. She couldn't look me in the eyes. If you ask me, it was like a scene straight out of the movie. Everything that happened was just too unreal, and the level of discomfort that wedding gave me is actually crazy. Fast forward till after the wedding, and before the reception, I pulled Tiana to the side to have a conversation because I'd been itching to speak to her. I urgently needed to know why she had been ignoring me all of a sudden, and why she was acting weird. Of course, I knew that she felt uncomfortable because of my very short history with Davidson, but I never jumped to conclusions. I wanted to speak to her first, and that's why I pulled her to the side. I started off by asking her why she was avoiding her contact with me, and she told me she was just nervous and the wedding stuff was getting to her. I called her down, then asked her why she didn't tell me that she got married to the same guy I met at the nightclub while we were in college. Ladies and gentlemen, you all needed to see how Tiana just decided to feign innocence. Now that I know the truth and what really happened, I can't help but praise her acting skills and condemn myself for being so gullible yet again. She acted so surprised, almost as if she had just heard the name before. She asked me what I was talking about, and I told her that Davidson was the same guy that asked for my phone number in the club while we were in college. I even had to add to the fact that Davidson was the real estate agent we kept talking about. She gasped and shook her head before telling me she had no idea he was the sake person. She told me she didn't know that Davidson was the one that asked for my phone number. According to her, she kept Davidson at her workplace when he came to get some clothes. I believed her back then, but now I think I am just really stupid. She pulled a Ronaldo Live story on me. Seriously? She happened to meet a real estate agent who came to get some clothes, and he had to be the same person she warned me never to get with. Back then, I didn't even hold a grudge or get angry because at the end of the day, I knew that coincidences happened and there was every possibility that she was telling the truth. I also didn't think it was a big deal because Davidson and I never got in a relationship. We never even saw each other after that day, so I didn't think there was any need for me to be angry with her. I asked her why she hid his photos, and she told me she only did that because he was not the photogenic type. Case closed, and that's all that happened that day. So it was quite surprising for me when I found out the truth just 1 month ago, but let me not get ahead of myself, guys. I don't want to leave out the important details because at the end of the day, I need to tell the truth. After the wedding, Tiana practically ghosted me. I'm not joking. I'm being 100% honest. She ghosted me and tried to make it look like we were having issues. It was difficult to see her and even have coffee together like we used to do. Seeing my best friend literally became a unicorn sighting. I didn't think it was an issue at first because I knew that it was 100% normal for couples to spend quality time together. But I discovered that she was just trying to make sure I didn't see Davidson. It was like a riddle to me, and I kept asking myself if I did something that would warrant such a behavior from my own best friend. It was at that moment that I remembered the fact that I realized that she might have been hiding him because of what I told her on their wedding day. I concluded that she didn't want to put the both of us in an uncomfortable situation when we dated before. Finally, she contacted me 2 months ago, and we started frequently again. I told her how angry I was for what she did, and she apologized, so we got back to talking and our friendship was back to normal. But I began to have little doubts here and there because of the way she treated me before. I just felt like she'd been a bad friend and I couldn't fully trust her. I also thought that she started acting out because she felt I was single, and she was married, so there wasn't supposed to be a relationship like before. I also noticed that she worked tirelessly to make sure I never came in contact with her husband. Unfortunately for her, all her efforts were in vain because just 1 month ago, I stumbled upon Davidson at my workplace. Yes, it was just a coincidence, Lowell. I'll be honest, I planned it. I wanted to meet him there, and I had to pull some tricks to get him to come to the place where I worked as a dietitian. I needed to find answers because I just couldn't understand why Tiana was behaving that way. Something told me that there had to be more to that story or else she wouldn't have been acting the way she was acting. When Davidson arrived, I pulled him to the side and asked to have a conversation with him. He was very shocked when he saw me, and I could tell that he didn't expect to see me there. At first, he just stared at me and said nothing before he finally asked me how I was doing. Are you kidding me? I was very surprised that he asked me that question. I kept wondering why he asked that question. I know that it's just a normal question and people ask themselves that all the time, but I never knew that he would ask me that. That's what made me realize that he actually remembered my face and knew who I was. I couldn't believe that he still remembered me after all those years, so I didn't try to hide my surprise. Davidson asked me if I already had something to eat, and I told him I'd not had anything to eat yet. He asked if I had time to go get coffee with him, and I told him I did. I really wanted us to have time to talk because I knew that there was no way I would have time to speak to him one-on-one again. There was no time for me to even see him in his wife's presence, so I needed to see him personally. He has a car, so he drove me there. But I was surprised when we ended up driving into a restaurant. I didn't expect him to actually take me to a restaurant, not a cafe. I didn't say anything, though. I just followed him because I was hungry. Guys, you all need to see how he was actually very nice. He opened the car door and treated me with a lot of respect. When we sat down and got ready to eat after taking our orders, he asked me what I wanted to talk about. I suddenly got nervous, so I told him I'll speak when I'm ready. He didn't rush me, and then we just ate in silence. After eating, he asked me if I still remembered his face. I laughed at that and told him I still remembered him. He then asked me why I didn't give him my number while I was in college. I was shocked that he still wanted to know the answer to that, but before I made the move to tell him the truth, I wanted to hear from him first. Tiana was still my best friend, so I didn't want to potentially say something that could cause problems in her marriage. I just wanted to know the truth on my own terms without causing any drama. So guys, I asked him to tell me how he ended up marrying my best friend before I told him the truth. That's when my world literally shattered and I knew that I'd been deceived. I realized that I had been holding on to a fake friendship, and the person I'd traveled to go support on her wedding day ended up backstabbing me. If a person is so close to you that they are ready to ask for your opinion on simple things like giving a guy your phone number, you should know that they really consider you their friend. That's why it really hurt me to find out from Davidson that after he waited and didn't find me at the club, he just decided to wait for me for some time because his friends suggested he waited. Then he told me Tiana walked up to him and told him I wasn't able to come because I had a boyfriend. So my best friend, who I trusted so much, ended up giving him her phone number. And then they were in contact without my knowledge. The fact that she always referred to that incident and kept joking about it just infuriated me. I couldn't believe that my own best friend could do that to me, and that made me extremely angry. Even Davidson noticed how angry I was, and he asked me if I wasn't aware of everything all along. I didn't have any reason to stay loyal to Tiana because it was obvious to me that she hadn't been loyal to me. I told him that Tiana warned me not to go meet him that day. He was also surprised because obviously we had two different stories. Even though I was angry, I didn't want any drama, so I told him there was no need to speak to her about it. I didn't wait to taste the cocktail he ordered. I just hid him goodbye and tried leaving the restaurant. Yes, Guy, I wanted to leave because I was just tired and upset. I needed to go back to work and just cool off. I'd already spent a lot of time having lunch with him, so I needed to get back to work. But before I left, he asked me for my phone number again. I told him there was no reason for us to exchange contacts and that it would do us no good, but he told me that it was something he wanted to do. Davidson told me that he wanted to be able to contact me as much as he wanted. I hurriedly gave him my phone number before I left the restaurant. After leaving that day, he was always in contact with me. He asked me out many times and even tried to take me out on dates. At first, I tried to ignore him and resist all the temptations, but I gave in at the end of the day and decided to give it a try. Yes, I practically betrayed my best friend by doing that, but even though I tried to pretend, I couldn't stomach the fact that she did what she did, and then when I asked her about it on her wedding day, she lied through her teeth and made a fool out of me again. If she had said the truth and didn't try to go around hiding the truth, I would have forgotten about it. The fact that she just made sure she lied to me and tried to keep me and Davidson from meeting because she knew that we'd find out the truth eventually. One day, during one of our hangouts, things got out of hand, and Davidson ended up taking me to a hotel. We slept together and spent the whole night together. Tiana kept calling his phone, but he didn't pick it up. After I slept with him, I felt bad, but whenever I remembered what Tiana did to me, I always told myself I was doing the right thing. The both of us had planned a vacation, and we were in contact with the rest of our friends. We were all supposed to bring our partners, and she told me she was also going to bring Davidson. I said I would come single, and I did. Before the vacation, Davidson told me he'd always asked Tiana to set us up even before they started dating, but she always said that I had a serious boyfriend and was likely going to get married. I kept all those things in mind till we finally went on the vacation. I didn't tell Tiana about it, and I never told her I'd been sleeping with her husband. We booked a hotel, and her room was almost directly opposite mine. Davidson and I acted like strangers in front of her, and I was sure she thought he didn't remember me. I knew that I was doing something horrible, but whenever I remembered that I could have been the one who got married to him, I just couldn't hold it any longer. There were many activities during the group vacation, but just yesterday they went camping in the mountains. I told them I wouldn't be able to go because I was tired. While I was alone in the room, Davidson suddenly came into the room. It was already late in the night by that time, and I asked where the others were. He said they were still camping and wanted to spend the night there. I got scared that we might get caught, so I asked him why he came back. He said he lied to have gotten a business call and told Tiana he needed to work all night. That's how we ended up spending the night together, and that's how he ended up naked on the bed right now. He told me just now that he wants us to take things to the next step and he wants to divorce Tiana. I told him I need time to think about it. Oh, hold on, I have to go, guys. Someone just knocked on the door. I hope we've not gotten caught. Update. Evil can never fight evil, and now I know I've been fooling myself. I've been so foolish to think that I could get back at my best friend by sleeping with her husband. Now karma has dealt with me, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. When I told you guys that someone knocked on the door, it was Tiana. Yes, guys. Apparently, she got suspicious that both of us were missing and decided to get back to see what we were up to. I think I let my guard down, and I should have thought about that because she has always been suspicious of us. When I opened the door, she was right there, and she didn't need a seer to tell her exactly what happened. She slapped me immediately and started a fight. It was Davidson that ended up separating us. I laughed in her face and called her a traitor for lying to me, and then she called me a fool for depending on her. It was crazy, and I couldn't believe that two ladies that were once best friends had grown so far apart that they called themselves disgusting names. It was not a nice sight to see, and I honestly felt like trash. But at the end of the day, I knew that what I did to her was unforgivable and what she did to me was unforgivable. I left the hotel that same day after packing my things. I saw no reason to stay anymore. I didn't feel bad at first because I felt like Davidson would end up choosing me at the end of the day. I was relaxed and waited for him to serve her divorce papers. But like all bad people, I didn't get a happy ending. He sent me a message via text and told me he couldn't leave Tiana because she threatened to file for divorce first and take half of his property if he left her. He also told me that she threatened to tarnish his image and ruin his name. I tried to make him understand that she was just trying to get into his head, but he blocked me after warning him never to contact him. It was at that moment I realized that he was just making excuses and was never really serious to begin with. He just wanted to get under my pants by making false promises. He knew he couldn't get divorced because he didn't want to ruin his image by having a marriage that didn't last a year. For me, it burned so hard because I realized that I'd wasted my integrity only to end up being embarrassed at the end of the day. It burned really hard and my karma hit very hard. The fact that even after all she did, Tiana won, still breaks my heart. But I'll call a spade a spade. I had it coming.